And they will do that only as long as there are good, usable copies of the object, you know, the book or the journal, available to people. And you've seen this with JSTOR. People really like JSTOR. Most academic disciplines find it a very good, actually better than the journal. Some of them don't. Many of them are underrepresented in JSTOR. And that's a problem that is going to cripple those fields that we need to pay attention to. But the way that libraries think about this, and they've been thinking about it deeply for quite a long time without anybody in the scholarly side of the reference desk understanding this, is that they understand that what's on the shelves in a circulating library is an access copy. It is not a preservation copy. It is something that they mend and rebind and in general do preservation activities for to keep it usable. And that's all it's for. But they don't do this with fragile materials. They don't do this with 20th century and 19th century moving image and audio collections because they are very fragile. There they have to actually consciously make an access copy to provide access. And they keep the original as a so-called preservation master under preservation conditions. What I think we'll see is a migration of more books that are now in the stacks into something equivalent to the special collections treatment. That is, a rational treatment of these materials as preservation masters, the go-to copies that people will get in the event that they have to have access in person, which of course many scholars will, and in the event that the digital copies need to be replicated for some reason. And the trick, and this is a trick that you need to be, the trick is to get the disposition of these regionally, of these print repositories right. And they can't just be by the each on every campus. That also is completely, that's a no-starter from the beginning. In 25 years, people won't even be talking about that. There will be, I think, a network of repositories among research libraries, number to be determined, how they're governed to be determined, and they will, and the selection criteria to be determined. And you need to be involved in all of those determinations. But they will actually be the places that will function. The best example would be the American Antiquarian Society, where it's a combination of a place that you can go with support for scholars who need to work in the archives, in the repository, shall we call them. And in addition to that, they keep these preservation copies that are available for access copies. So I would say that historians in particular need to engage libraries in all these points of decision making. Libraries are very eager to have scholars engage, and I don't think that scholars, with all respect to what my colleagues up here said, I don't think that libraries can respond to by the each expressions of interest. I think that in fact, that the associations, and I'm speaking specifically of AHA and MLA and others, actually need to, as economists would say, aggregate demand. They actually need to express, as the representatives of their community, what are the priorities? Because libraries will not be able to do everything, and most scholars will talk about what they want. The American Historical Association, as they did during the newspaper scanning program of the 1980s, it was the 70s, actually represented the aggregate interests of historians, and they will have a major influence